Hey, good morning, folks. It's Charlie with Fish and Grits. Why don't y'all sit down, grab your coffee, let's fish for about an hour before anybody really wakes up and gets too loud, hopefully, and just talk about things. I know in my last video I posted, I said sunset in the morning. Yeah, my brain sometimes is outrunning my mouth or vice versa. So this morning I have a sunrise. Oh, it's coming. It's through the trees. And the moon. I don't know how good that's going to show up in the camera, but yeah, it's up here. Full moon on the 21st. We had a full moon. And I was over here doing a little work around the barn, and I smelled those bluegill again. So last night we had a little birthday celebration for my sister. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still running my mouth. I need to be putting bait in the water. And so I had some. Actually, I had a minnows left over from the past 2 trips I've been on. I have. Oh, I hear you. I'll be there in a minute. I have been seeing, while we're trolling for white perch, I've been seeing these weed beds that just have fish stacked up on them on my sonar when I'm going across them. It's just crazy. So, and I kept saying, well, I want to stop and try to fish that. I want to stop and try to fish that. But we never do. We never, we're usually catching white perch, and it's what they're slamming, and we never quit doing that to go back and fish it. So the past couple days or this week, I decided I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to give it a good effort. So I bought some minnows and some minnows anyway, and we went out there, and I just started off by trolling around with my white perch rigs out, and looking for these pods, because they're not always in the same place. I can mark one and come back the next day and they're not there. They may be 10 feet over or not around at all. So, you know, I'm finding them as I'm randomly trolling, and my trolling's not that random, but anywho. So I go out, and we're riding around, and there they are. Weed bed, weed bed, weed bed, nothing, 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 nothing. And then I find them. We mark them. I can't believe. Daggone, I can't believe I threw my cricket out there. This might start making more sense to me, guys. As we fish, we'll talk about bluegill bedding. They probably won't minnows. But anyway, we marked a couple of the spots. I took Mom out with me, and that was going to be our first effort in mark a location, get off of it, spot lock the boat, and cast to it using our sonar and all that stuff I got on the boat. Trying to utilize that, because our lake is, I hate to say featureless. The bottom is pretty featureless. It max depth I'm seeing is just a shade over 8 foot. I occasionally look at this guy. Hey, this guy wanted to say good morning. Oh, don't drip him in the coffee. Look at there. I had to get a close up of that. Ow. A close up of this guy for you. He's got some color on him. Let's let the sun rise, not set, shine on him. How about that? He's something, ain't he? Got my finger over the color part. Look. So back to what I was saying about the crappie. Mom and I got there Friday. I think we fished Friday. As soon as we got there, the wind was already getting up higher than the max forecasted for the day, and it was choppy. So we said, all right, we can try it. But I didn't think it was going to be very successful. So we tried it. I found the fish, and it was, being such a shallow lake, I mean, using my live to try to distinguish a weed bed that has a few fish sitting really close to the top of it, and a weed bed that doesn't, with the boat bouncing, and so that's going to take some practice. But we did find them. I found them a lot easier on my downward facing, just traditional sonar. Look at this little bass. Hit my cricket as soon as it hit the water, didn't you, fella? Oh, I'm getting that in my coffee. There we go. He's a little fella. We got a lot. That'd have been better if I'd have threw that in the water. We have an abundance of small bass. When it's fish fry time or something like that, I can come out here if I need to and catch. You could probably catch 50 or 60 of those little small bass. So the first day was kind of a bust. The wind was blowing so hard, and it doesn't take much wind. This place is white capping now. I mean, so we tried it. It didn't work. We tried trolling. It was rough. I trolled with the wind. It was about the only way that it was not beating and banging the boat so hard that you wouldn't lose your mind. The bait presentation with the boat just surging like that, having to use a drift sock, I can only imagine what my bait was looking like down there, doing loops and jerking, and pretty unnatural looking. And I'll tell you, white perch, when they are feeding, I don't know if you can put bait in the water wrong. I don't know if you could put bait in the water wrong with a white perch when they're feeding. But when they're not actively feeding, and your boat's baiting and slamming, and your bait bouncing and carrying on looking like crap, look at this little guy. Look at this little guy. Hey, all that is unnecessary. This one. Uh-oh. Of course he didn't go all the way in the water. I was going to show you how this one had a nice purple belly and all that. But now he's dirty. Well, now he's not dirty. But I wasn't going to wash him off and get my clean shoes dirty, which so yeah. Anyway, I'm hard on shoes, so it was rough. The sitting still and looking at fish on live and trying to put a minnow in front of them. Wow, impossible for me with the skill level I have at my electronics. Now, so it didn't work Friday. Yesterday, oh, that's gonna be one right here. So yesterday, took Kelly out fishing. Very light wind was predicted, and it was. We got there and it was foggy and barely a ripple on the water. And I said, okay. We actually went and bought. I bought 3 dozen minnows the first day and probably brought 30 of them home. And then, of course, they die and it's hot. I'm keeping them in the shade with changing the water out, but it's such a shock to them when that water gets warm and then you put cooler tap water in it and oh no. That was a little bait stealer. We'll talk more about bluegill bedding in a minute if I don't forget. But the crappie, I thought it was going to be perfect. I said, it's the wind's going to be light. I can find those weed beds with them on it. I can cover a lot of water just circling and zigzagging because I'm starting to mark where the weeds are on the. Look, I guess he struck at the hook or the little sinker there. I got stove. My bait got stove right there when I missed that hook set, and it felt like a tiny fish. It was that little machine gun tap. It was. They probably grabbed part of him and shook him right off the hook. This rod is super sensitive. You can feel it right when they start breathing on it, and you have to be careful not to set the hook before they bite it. So sometimes this rod here, it knows before the fish knows. That's how sensitive it is. So we get out there on the lake yesterday, and again, I must have threw it right in a. Oh man! All right, they're gonna put me to the test this morning. See if you can talk and fish, there, fat boy. So anyway, we're out there yesterday, and the wind is perfect, 0. But we know it's foggy. But I know it's gonna get hot. And there's 2 things Miss Kelly does not like: getting up early and hot. And this was going to be 2 of those things in one day, so I was going to have to really show off on this wife guide fishing service. And I thought I was, because this is what she wanted to do. She's heard me talk about it. She had a choice. I said the bluegill are bedding. Let's go to the river. I know where there's some really big bluegill beds that are deep that I missed the spawn on this year. And I think catfish might be spawning a little bit. I said, we'll throw some light catfish gear out there and on the bottom, and then we'll drop shot these bluegill on those beds. And she said, nope, I want to go try for crappie and with the ultralights. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All you can say is, yes, ma'am. Look at that guy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Look at that big old knotty-headed bluegill. I'll let y'all see this one. I keep my big meat hammers out the way. Y'all could see the fish a little better. Make sure I drip plenty of my coffee. Look, this one's striped. What? Get out of here. Get out of here. Quit being foolish and biting everything you see in the water. Get you in trouble, dummy. I don't want everybody to come over here and catch the big ones. I want the little ones to bite for other people. So we get to the lake. I rig us up for this. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to take that piece of zucchini out of there. I think I'm killing. I didn't have a piece of potato. Last time I had crickets to keep alive, I put apple in there. They like apple. They ain't mind that apple at all. They ate it down to the core. This time I didn't have anything, so I put a piece of zucchini in there that was actually starting to get soft. This time of year, everybody in the world growing zucchini is giving it away hard as they can. So if you got crickets and you got a piece of zucchini, they do like that thing. Anyhow, let's say we found a crappie yesterday, or I found the fish sitting on the weed beds. One time we've stopped and tried casting to them, Dad and I did, and we caught a mixed bag of white perch. I caught a couple crappie, so we really still didn't know what they were. And I'm still not good enough with that live to boat control, wind, to keep that thing in focus enough to see my bait while I'm casting. Wow, that's a pretty fish. That is a pretty fish. But he ate it pretty hard too. My pole told me he was getting ready to bite it, but I was talking. My brain barely. Looky there, boy. He still got the cricket hanging out of his mouth. Look at all that stuff on his head right there. Get out the sunlight. Look at that. Hope y'all can see that. That's pretty. Get out of here, bud. Oh. So we found them. We did our thing. The lake was dead flat. I could see the fish. I could see the weeds. I could see my bait. I had a bunch of minnows. We getting ready to wear them out. Folks, I'm not going to tell you no lie. Those fish, soon as our presentation, our bait would hit the water, they would, I could see them. Wow, that was a light bite. They said, "Hi, let's see if he can feel this." Yes, I can. So I could see them. The fish would just come up and almost follow our bait right back down. And and this was nothing fancy, folks. I had a number 6 hook, which is hey. Pretty small hook. A fluorocarbon, I think I had 6-pound fluorocarbon line on. It's the small stuff. Look at this guy. This is my light biter here. Look at this. Look at it there. Boy, that naughty head on him. So, careful. Don't step on your pole, Charlie. But I caught a small white perch on those beds. And I said, well, maybe they're not crappie. I think I caught a small crappie. Well, maybe they are. But this is almost one of those days where it's 50 casts, changing minnows, killing minnows for the occasional light bite. And I mean, it was light and everything was small bass. Everything we caught was small. We caught one white perch about probably 6-7 inches long. He was a coal anyway. Well, if he'd have been my first fish in the live well, he'd have been kept, but he wasn't a dandy, that's for sure. So I'd move. I marked several grass beds in my first pass, and then I came around way off to the side. We were really quiet, putting the baits right on them. I could set the boat up where we would be in casting distance of some really big, and these grass beds are under weed beds. They grow about 2 feet off the bottom, and then some of them have fish stacked right on top. When I go over them directly over them with the boat, I can see on the sonar where they all come up. You can see that where they come all the way to the surface. Now, when I circle around and see them, they're not doing that. They're all relatively close to the top. But we would cast to them, and they would come up and go back down. So I would change our bait to deeper. All right, don't make them work hard for it. Put it right on their nose, right above their eyes. Speaking of eyes, well, that guy over there. And it just didn't work. It didn't work. Missed something else picked it up and missed it. I've got to throw it right there. I don't know what's going on right here, but there's a lot of activity going on. But we tried, and we moved to different weed beds, and we got to the point where we were putting the live bait poles out and watching them and casting with our other, with another pole with artificials, just all around the boat, trying to find something active, and all we ever got was occasional small fish, and that's frustrating. I could see, I found bait fish. They bit the head off my cricket. They probably won't eat it without a head. Not that kind of bite today. These things ain't nice. They're not slamming today. We'll talk about bluegill fishing in a little while. So, ooh, my stomach growling. Catching fish makes me hungry. But the fish just weren't biting. So we said, okay, let's just troll. Now, this is a Saturday. I never fish Saturday unless Kelly's with me, really. Not this time of year. The recreational boaters come out pretty heavily. And the lake just gets kind of rough. I can fish through it, but I just prefer not to. When those guys go out there and hoot and holler and wakeboarding and tubing and having a grand old time of it, I'm telling you, they're having a good time. But I prefer not to be fishing my style of fishing out there during those good times. Ah, wow. They are just picking it up today. That's all that was. That fish just picked it up. And pretty good swirl. And there were quite a few boats out there fishing. I mean, we were, and those guys must be having luck in the same area that I've been having luck, because we were all fishing in the same area. Hey, maybe those guys been watching my videos. Hey, maybe I helped some people out. I didn't help them out yesterday. I promise you, they could have followed me to the spot, and all they would have saw was us catch about 10 small fish. Now, we did get a couple exciting gar hits. Look at this fella. He copper on his nose. Huh. Pretty fish too. Go back to your bed, boy. So that was it. That was it. So we threw everything back. We're having a fish fry for Kelly's birthday next weekend. So I've been keeping a lot of fish. So I've got plenty of fish. I don't want a freezer full of fish. I like eating my fish fresh. So I like to catch them, clean them, cook them that night, and have fish tacos the next night. I eat fish twice a week, 2 nights a week, generally. Keep my dad stocked up. I think he would eat fish every night. So that was it for yesterday, and it was just tough fishing. So I kept thinking about these bluegill beds. No, I kept thinking about the bluegill beds at the river, because those bluegill beds that I found are deep. They are deep. They oh, golly dang it. Gee willikers. I mean, these beds are, I can see them plainly on my graph, that they're from the bank all the way out into 8 feet of water, and it's large. I found a couple of them like that, and I think I found a pattern on where I found them, that I could go down the river and probably find more. They bit the head off of it again, and then I got no more action. Yo, I'm not going to test it today. Let me find my glasses, instead of me looking for them with a fishing pole in my hand. I'm blind as a daggum bat. I don't know if bats are really blind. That's just what they tell me. Let's see. Oh my goodness, those are so dirty. Let me clean them with my fish slime hands. But these bluegill beds they look just like the ones that I can physically see with my eyes, but these ones in the river, you can't see them at all. Even the ones in the shallowest ones, I fished them first when I found them. I was told about bluegill biting really well. This was, I think it was the last full moon, which was in May, but we had a lot of things going on, and so I did fish here and make a video. But by the time that I made it to the river to bluegill fish, they had done their thing, and it was my fault. You know, when somebody says, hey, I went yesterday and tore them up, you got to get going. However, the day that I did go, there were other people there that said they were tearing them up the day before. And I mean, big ones, like I'm doing here. I mean, just fish after fish, and maybe bigger fish. My fish are kind of limited here, and we don't feed them, and I think I'm getting ready to change that. I think I'm going to put a feeder out here just so I can grow bigger bluegill. That's what I want. Not more, but bigger. Boy, that sunrise is burning my retina. So these bluegill beds I found in the river that I was too late to catch fish on the first time. And I tried to fish them. I had this pole and rigged up with a drop shot, just like I'm using now. And my first cast out there, they're feeding now. That sun's coming up. My first cast, something big hit it. I don't know what. It was not a bluegill. It could have been a gar, blackfish, catfish, You like biting, rascal? So but it immediately just stretched my string and broke me off. And I got to admit, that one's going way out there. As many fish as I catch with this pole, I should probably every 2 trips. And that's not bragging. You just get on bluegills and where I'm even to casting, I think I need to cut about that much line, about the max casting length off every other time I fish, because I got broke off, and it barely even pulled any drag before it broke me off. And my drag is set pretty good on this rod. So I rigged back up and didn't catch anything else. There you go. I'm too lazy to keep getting up and walking to the camera. But I got broke off on something big, tied back up, tried it again, and no action. No action at all. So I used my sonar the best I could to see if I could see fish on the beds. I could not see fish on the bed, so moved on. I went back another time, just general fishing. I took artificial stuff and my dogs, and we just went to the river. Didn't have a species in mind, just using lightweight stuff. I was just gonna cast the banks and easy fish. And the fishing was easy. I caught a nice warmouth, but I was marking fish just all over the place in these certain areas, and they were near these bedding areas, near them. And I'm still getting familiar with my electronics, because most of the time I'm trolling for white perch, and I'm not taking advantage of my live and my other stuff. But I keep my live on like 100-foot setting, so if I'm in a school of white perch and I get out of a school of white perch, I'll hit the button, change screens, spin that thing around to see if I can see them, and I know what direction that I may have missed them. It works sometimes. Sometimes the fish don't school and move like you think they do, that I've noticed. We'll talk about white perch later. Talking about bluegill now, but didn't catch any bluegill on those beds. But I wasn't catching them on these beds. I don't have to try to catch them on these beds. I can just walk past. I drive past here with my tractor nearly daily. I bet. Let's see if he's still got a head. Yeah, he's still got a head, but he's got his old buddy's body hanging over his head so they can't see it. I think they like to look him in the eyes when they eat him. I don't know how it works with worms. But I kept dreaming about those great big bluegill beds, especially after last Saturday. Kelly caught, and I was hooting and hollering and acting like a drunk fool. I was not. I was a fool, but not. When I zeroed the scale, weighed the fish. Biggest bluegill I've ever seen. It's a fish of a lifetime, in my opinion. Especially for Kelly, because she doesn't get to put in all the hours that I may get to fish. So and I've never caught a fish this big. But when I zeroed my scale and I weighed her fish, it was a bluegill. It read 1.6 pounds. So I didn't look at the scale again, and I showed it to the camera, saying 1.6 pounds. Well, by the time I got it to the camera and wiggling around and whatever and held it in front of the camera, it said 1.47 pounds. So we're going to go with 1.47 pounds, because it's not worth arguing about. But a 1.47, let's call it a pound and a half bluegill. I measured it. I got it all on the video. 13 inches long. We released the fish.
Okay, good video.
Look at there, y'all. A 1.6 pound bluegill, 13 inches long. All right, y'all see him. Woo! What a fish. How about it, babe?
That was so cool. So excited.
Kelly was kind of, what? But that's a trophy. You don't keep that fish. You put that guy back. Can you imagine some little kid out there with her Barbie pole or Spider-Man pole or her Transformer pole or his pole, whatever. And they catch that sucker. Most of those poles they got 8-pound line on them. They're gonna land him. But holy moly, can you imagine that fish for a child? Or this child? I threw it back because I marked the spot. I want to catch that sucker again. We were careful with him. I put him in the live well while I was getting rulers down. I did not want to kill that fish, but he was a dandy, an absolute dandy. So I really want to fish these deep bluegill beds. That fish was not on a bed, just in 7.5 feet of water. Came up and struck a bait that was running in about 4 feet. I went back over the spot, didn't notice anything. But I really want to try these bluegill beds. But anyway, the second time I went to the river with my dogs, and I was just casting. All I took was just my artificial stuff, and I had so many marks. And I've watched videos, mostly crappy videos, people using this live stuff. So to me, that's what they looked like. They were suspended. The water was 15, 18 feet deep. These fish were about halfway up in the water column. Looked like a lot of them. Looked like big fish, big crappie. And they were close to the boat. And man, let me tell you, I tied so many knots, my hands were sore. And finally saw one of them strike my bait close to the boat. And it was a gar about this long. Not a big gar. I would say a pretty relatively small gar. Much bigger than what I thought a crappie would look like on that screen. And then I kind of started, my brain and my everything started kind of getting on the same road. We were merging into traffic together. And I realized that I had my electronics on 105 or 110 feet where I'm in the lakes just scanning for a school of fish. So, oh. So I ended up with, it made the fish look small size, which my target panfish size, because in relationship to how big the screen is and how far I had it zoomed out. So I fish really, these electronics are not always good because I fished hours casting at gar. And I don't know what, the gar might be spawning for all I know. They weren't feeding, they were just, occasionally you would see a ripple on the top. Not enough to see that it was a gar. I don't know what they were doing. I'm gonna have to look into that because I don't mind catching gar as long as I got the right pole and the right line. But bluegill, I was here for coffee, bluegill, and conversation on May 26th. I gotta get some more coffee. That's getting cold. It's been cold. And it was, I think that was the full moon or really close to it. I haven't went back and looked. But these fish were bedding. I could smell them. I'd been over here the day before. And I tore them up. It was just, y'all saw it. And they were good fish. And these are good fish. But there's not many that cast that I made and it didn't catch a fish. And these are much slower. I did come out here last night to see if they were going to bite because, like I said, I could see fish. I could see fish yesterday. Plainly see fish. Woodpecker. And couldn't get them to bite. So I wanted to test this out. So on the way home yesterday, we didn't get skunked at the lake. Now we caught about 10 fish, but they were all small. We had a really good day fishing. That lake was quiet. It was foggy almost our entire day. All the way up to about 10 that morning. Or not quite 10. It was foggy and quiet. And there were other boats out there, and you could hear people talking, but they weren't loud. It was just, we were all in the same area. You get pretty close to somebody before you realize that, oh, there's another boat there. So there was a bass fisherman out there that he's out there every Saturday that I fish with Kelly out there, and he fishes in this same spot. I don't know what he's got there. I haven't went over there and looked. I don't care. But I'm thinking I might mark him. That's what I really need to do is mark him so I can use him for a reference when it's foggy like that. I can look down at my screen and use him for a landmark. Because he's close to where I'd like to troll. He's actually right in the outside turn area where I'm, which it don't matter to me. I can change up my mess easy. But he does sit in that same spot. And occasionally I'm trolling in his direction and look over there at him, and I see him. He catches fish. He knows what he's doing. So yesterday I tried something. I tried to follow the crowd. And that's a pretty good tactic. They must not like that cricket. I don't know why. That cricket was dead when I put him on there. He was one of those easy to catch crickets. I tried to follow the crowd yesterday after a while, because once we spent a really good effort on trying to cast to fish that we could see, and which was very unproductive. I even had two of my trolling rods in rod holders off the other side of the boat, just suspended with minnows on them, as we're drifting around and moving, the boat just sitting still and kind of just, But anyway, and I caught one little largemouth by this big little guy. The little white perch didn't even eat him. And we were on fish. I found well, enough about that. Yesterday was yesterday. But I got so desperate. All those other boats were kind of crowded in enough area that I don't typically catch fish in. I've trolled through it. I don't have any marks in there. But I was like, hey, I don't know what white perch do. Maybe they moved over there for some reason that I still can't figure out why they're in this area for some reason. But they are. But as I started going toward the boats, and I wasn't going to crowd them, but I was going to go over there and see what the bottom looked like if all of them were fishing over there. And I think some of them were actually just drifting in the wind, and there wasn't much wind. But I didn't see them cat. By the time I started heading my way over to them, I was 500 yards from them. I don't know what's happening to my bluegill biting now. They quit on me. All those guys moved. It might have been like seagulls. One guy thought another guy caught a fish, so he moved toward him, and then somebody else saw that happen and moved toward them, and it turns out the other guy was just tripped in the boat like me and fell through his rod holders and made a bunch of calamity. Oh my goodness. I've sore lipped every one of these bluegill, I guess. But by the time I started heading toward them, they turned and all scattered out. So I said, you know what? It was starting to get hot. The boat landing looked like I was seeing a couple more jet skis coming out here and there. And I said, I had it packed up by 10 a.m. We were heading to the hill. Talked to a couple other guys that were taking their boats out. They had the same plan as me, fish in the morning, and then get out of there. Like those guys that enjoy that bright sunlight, and I do too. I like to go out on those. I like to go out on those recreational boats. I'm not one for tubing and knee boarding and skiing anymore. But I'll sure watch you do it. But I don't want to fish beside you while you do it. Oh, mercy. Come here, little fella. But, so today, or yesterday, after we came, I think peeing all over my leg. Oh, that might not be pee. You liked me, don't you? I got that Old Spice spray on. Wow. I don't know if y'all can see the angle I'm seeing, but whoa, that guy got a lot of green or something on. Sun is so pretty shining off of them. They're like little peacocks. So on the way home, since I didn't have any fish to clean, I stopped at the bait store and asked him if I could trade my minnows for crickets, because there was something wrong with my minnows. He said, sure, pour them back in the tank. I'll give you twice what you paid for them. Y'all know better than that nonsense. I admitted to all those guys sitting in there hanging out at the bait store that I didn't catch squat. I caught a few. It wasn't a skunk. But it was a good day, man. I think, geez, guys, I out there with my wife, and me and my wife get along. Believe it or not, as long as I keep the house clean, keep the dishes done, cook regularly, make sure that all those flowers are planted and watered and everything's nice and pretty and the pool's clean, we get along mostly pretty good. We don't have any groceries, so I think she's waiting for me to actually do the grocery list myself. But anyway, there's a couple things that Kelly does not like. And she doesn't complain about a lot of things. As long as she's getting her way, she usually doesn't complain. Getting up early, Kelly does not like. Kelly doesn't like it if she naturally wakes up early. I naturally wake up about 4:30. If it's 5 and I wake up, I almost feel like I'm late. I'm in a panic. I got stuff to do. I got dogs to feed. I got to get my mess ready. I got to go. The sunrise is getting so darn early, I'd almost have to be there at 5 o'clock and that's to be set up in time to get a sunrise. So, but bluegills, I caught them in May right here. I smelled them. I can see them. I fished for them with leftover crickets from going to the river and couldn't catch them after I was told the week before that they were biting. Maybe. I don't know the timing. The timing there was, I don't remember the exact timing. But anyway, I missed it at the river. But I came here with the crickets and found them. It doesn't make that much sense to me that they would have, I don't know. Maybe I've got a really large bluegill population and a pretty small bedding area. They only bed in this one spot, and that's not the only shallow water. They just don't. I think it might be a lot of sand there. There was a tobacco barn right in this area. And those tobacco barns, everywhere on this farm that there was a tobacco barn, there's a lot of sand from all the dirt coming in on the tobacco, the drags over years and years and years of that wet tobacco coming in sandy and that dry tobacco leaving. But it is washed into the pond there, and but they've got it pushed out almost like one giant bluegill bed. The rim of it is one solid rim pushed out, and then they bed right in it. It's weird, but So I came over here last night after my sister's birthday dinner, which was delicious spaghetti and homemade meatballs, bread, garlic bread, salad, homemade chocolate cake. A lot of interesting conversation. Oh my goodness. So I wanted to test these bluegill out for a couple of things. Uh-oh, don't kick my crickets. Oh my. Oh my. So I brought my rig over here with me. Oh, this is nice. Got him right in the lips. Look how dark and colorful. This thing's still on? No. I think it says it's overheated. Hang on. I hope not. So, anyway, look at that guy. Right there. Woo-wee. Well, folks, my battery died. Lord, look at all them fish. And my battery died on me. My camera's overheating. I shot this video in high resolution today. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I really wanted to show you guys some of those bluegill. If we could get their colors. I don't see in high resolution, so I can't tell the difference between 1080 and 2K and 4K and Y2K, and I don't know all that stuff, but I know it gets that camera hot, and I know it kills the battery fast. But as I was replacing the battery, I realized that I've been running my mouth here for over an hour, like an hour and 15 minutes. And that wasn't my goal. I was gonna just leave this video unedited, talking, fishing, keep it around an hour. But I was having a good time, and you guys were having a good time, and we were talking about stuff. So I did make a video last night when I tried to catch these fish. I turned my camera on and fished till dark. I wanted to see if bluegill would bite in the dark. They did. Not as fast, but they did. Harder on the fishermen than it was on the bluegill. But I'm gonna wrap this up. Sun's starting to get hot on me. I'm got one last swallow of coffee left here, and we've caught some fish, had some fun. They're starting to slack off. I don't think they like that as low as this water is, and that sun starts beating them on top of the head. I think they probably kind of slacked off pretty good. So we're gonna give the fish a break. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for coming around. Thanks for going fishing with me. Hey, at least we don't have to clean any fish today, right? Have a good day.